So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you my friend, Larry Levine, all the way from California, author of Selling from the Heart. He is championing a movement of purpose in the sales industry. And so I will tell you what, if you are looking to make a difference through the work of sales and to champion your gifts, talents, and purpose, I can't think of a better place for you to be than right now to receive and hear from the man who literally wrote the book on Selling from the Heart. Larry Levine.
Davin, what's happening? Oh, I tell you what, it's such an honor to be involved with this. I wish I was with you, but it looks like the weather's sunnier there than it is by me. So go figure. I still got a pullover jacket on. I'm in Southern California in the middle of May. What's happening? It's crazy. But
it's crazy.
All
right, man.
Let's get ready to roll. We're gonna have a great time. We're gonna have a great time together. I would encourage you, take some notes, jot things down. I'm going to throw a lot of things at you over the course of our time together. But I wanted to start off this way because it was just something I actually just watched this morning. And I didn't know it was going to be as relevant right now as it was. I follow Salesforce on YouTube. And I heard in the interview, actually, I watched it today. It was an interview with Anil Bhusri. Now, Anil Bhusri, he's the CEO, he's the co-CEO of Workday. Now, Workday does HR software for half the Fortune 500 companies in the United States. They're a global company. They're about $4 billion a year. And I was listening to his interview today. It was recorded a couple of weeks ago, but I was watching it on YouTube actually this morning. And he talked about how he started Workday. And here's what was interesting, and I want us to key in on this because this will tee us up for a phenomenal time together this afternoon. This is what Anil said. He said, you know something? He goes, the first 500 employees I hired at Workday, I personally interviewed each one of them. Now let's stop and think about that for a moment. Here's the CEO of Workday, the first 500 people he interviewed. Why? It was around two things. He wanted to make sure that their values and their purpose aligned with Workday. Let's stop and think about that for a moment. He wanted to make sure that purpose and alignment and values were all there. Why am I saying this? I'm going to hit a lot of things head on with sales. I am a complete sales geek at heart. But first of all, I wanted to thank Davin for the opportunity to share Selling from the Heart. It's been a pleasure to get to know Davin. Day one virtually was amazing. Austin Hatch, if you're watching, what a story. Wow. I cried I cried during that one. So you all know that. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm an emotional guy, but I just wanted to say thank you. You know, we can all agree, and I want us to, let's just think about this for a moment. I'm going to throw a word out there. That word's change. Now, change can mean many different things to many different people. I do know this. Change is difficult. However, change is massively needed in order for us to grow. Here's the hard part about this. The older we get, the harder it is to change. But I want us to think about this. In order to change, we must grow. But growth and comfort, they don't coexist. They don't play together. Why am I sharing all this with you? Let's just think about it. Here we are. It's May 12th, 2021. I'm going to ask everyone, let's put our thinking caps on for a moment. Who would have ever thought, if we go back January, let's just go back January of 2020, that we would be in a somewhat hybrid version of the Purpose Summit? We all thought we would be face-to-face. And now here we are face-to-face and in virtual environments. Change is necessary to grow. But we must think about this. In order to thrive, In order to thrive in uncertainty, we must grow, we must change. We've all been tested. If there's a word that just sticks in my head over the last 15, 16 months, it's tested. We've all been tested. We've all been tested through this crisis. But we must innovate through crises. We must innovate. I'm asking each and every one of you, what have you all done to innovate, to grow? Why am I saying this? In order to change, we must be it starts in here. It starts in our heart. There's three pillars that I really believe in here at Selling from the Heart. It's mindset, heart set, and skill set. I'm a big believer that we're products of our environments. Let's stop and think about that for a moment. I believe we're all products of our environments. Now, I'm going to throw a sales spin on this, and I'm a firm believer that we're all in sales. But salespeople are products of their environment. Why am I sharing all this with you? One of my business coaches always tells me, always, he goes, Larry, he goes, never judge anybody. The old saying, never judge a book by its cover. We do not know somebody's backstory until we know their backstory. Now you may be going, where am I going with this? Let me share with you my backstory and what brought Selling from the Heart forward just in a short period of time. And I'm saying the last 3 years is I'll give you a background. This is how I was raised. I was raised by a highly relationship-oriented mother and a rocket scientist for a father. Yes, my dad was a rocket scientist for the United States Air Force. He had a PhD in aeronautical physics from 2 Ivy League schools before he could legally drink alcohol. That's what I was raised with. Graduates high school, a science high school in New York City at 15. A PhD from Cornell and NYU by the time he's 20. Folks, this is what I had to grow up with. I'm sharing this with you because when I decided to go into sales against my parents' better judgment, I brought something to a very chaotic, a very dysfunctional sales channel. I grew up in Southern California. I just lived north of Los Angeles, California. I sold copiers my whole entire life in Los Angeles. But what I brought to the forefront is I brought passion, purpose, and pride to what I did. Heck, I sold things that broke. However, I took how I was raised and I brought this to the forefront. I took the high relationship-oriented things that I learned from my mother, and I combined that with the process and the practice and the planning and the education that my father ingrained in us. And I smashed that together to bring that to the sales world. Why? One simple reason. I saw forever and a day, and I spent some massive amounts of time in chaotic sales environments where it was all about me. It was all about the company. I decided long ago, if I was to stay true to who I was and stand out, I had to lead with purpose. I had to lead with heart. I had to lead with care. And I had to build rock solid relationships in a world where salespeople weren't very trusted. And I'm going to key in on this in just a little bit, but I'd like to share a story with you that further ingrains. I'm a big believer that we can learn from past experiences, and we can learn from our clients. We can learn from influencers. We can learn from those people out in our marketplace. I'm going to take everyone back about 15, 16 years ago. I came across and was introduced to a gentleman named Father Greg Boyle. Now, Father Greg Boyle, many of you guys may have never heard of Father Greg Boyle, but you may have heard of the organization that he helped start in the mid 80s. He started Homeboy Industries in downtown LA, probably one of the most highly recognizable not-for-profit organizations in Los Angeles. And he started it based on a hope and a prayer. And what his main goal was to rehabilitate and give back hope to gang members in Los Angeles as they came out of being incarcerated, whether you were male or female. This organization was started in the late 80s. Well, about 15 years ago, I'm watching a YouTube video on how Father Greg Boyle started Homeboy, and it captured my heart. Why? I'm a big believer in leading with a servant's heart. I'm going to ask each and every one of us, are you leading with a servant's heart? Are you leading with purpose? Are you leading with pride? Are you leading with passion? And his story captivated me. I sent him an email and I said, hey, Father Greg Boyle, you probably get a ton of emails. I do a lot of community service out in the city that I live in here in Thousand Oaks. Your video and how you started Homeboy touched my heart. If there's anything that I can ever do to help, please let me know. A couple weeks later, something happens. Father Greg Boyle actually sends me an email. He says, I'd love to meet you. I go, oh my gosh, here I am. I get to meet Father Greg Boyle, who started Homeboy Industries, one of the most highly recognizable not-for-profits in Los Angeles. 2 weeks later, I find myself walking into a 2-story building in downtown LA, catty corner to Chinatown, a couple miles from Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. I'm greeted by a gentleman in a suit, tattoos all over his face. And I go, oh, tattoo. And this is like going through my mind. Tattoos on the face. He's probably completely covered in tattoos, which is fine by me. One of the most pleasant guys I'd ever met. I got my lanyard, puts my name on it, and I wait for Father Greg Boyle to greet me. And for 45 minutes, Father Greg Boyle personally escorts me around and gives me a tour of Homeboy Industries. And I'm a big believer we must become cognizant of our surroundings. And I have a keen sixth sense, my ear. I could pick up on things. And I started to hear chants, Father G, Father G. Guys were giving him bro hugs and high fives, and ladies were giving him a kiss on the cheek. And I noticed all this. And at the very end, as he's walking me to the door 45 minutes later, I asked him something that 15 years ago has stuck in my head and has been a big, huge factor in how I've grown selling from the heart. And it was simple as this. I said, Father Boyle, what is it? What is it about your culture? What is it about Homeboy that makes everything tick? I see what's going on here. He said, Larry, it's quite simple. I want us to key in on this for a moment. He says, if you treat people with love and respect, it's quite simple. They will give it right back to you. If you treat people with love and respect, they will treat you with love and respect. It was the latter part of my career that stuck into my head. And I said, Larry, what would it be if I doubled down on respect and love? What would happen? Because we all know respect is earned, but honor is given. And I took that to my clients. I took that to the marketplace. I took that out into the community. And it served me very well. But I'm a big believer, just like the last 16 months have been full of change. We all can thrive. We all can thrive in seasons of change. But during seasons of change, we have aha moments. And we must learn how to deal with aha moments. And I'm sharing all this with you because at 50 years old, I'm 56 years old right now. At 50 years old, I had an aha moment. Probably one of the biggest aha moments I've ever had in my whole life. I was fired from a high-paying corporate job. It was the latter part of my career. It forced me into entrepreneurship. I was sideswiped by it. It came unexpected. And at 50 years old, for the first time ever, I was fired. And I had to figure out what to do with myself. I could either go back to what I knew, and what I knew was selling copiers my whole life. I can ride off into a complacent sunset, or I could do something else. I dug deep inside of me, and it took me 45 days to figure this out, but I doubled down on myself. I got reacquainted with who I was. I'm going to ask us, is during this season of change that we've all been through, are you all getting reacquainted with yourself? There's another RE word that I just love, and it's reinvent. And I'm a big believer when aha moments happen, when seasons of change happen, we must reinvent ourselves, and we must re-engage ourselves, and we must get reacquainted with ourselves. And that's what I did. At 50 years old, I decided to go out in the entrepreneurial space and educate sales teams and educate sales leaders and educate businesses on what I believe the missing link is today in business. And it's centered around one word, and it's heart. And I'm a big believer that words matter and message matters. 4.5 years ago, and I'll admit, I'm an open book. I'm as transparent as they get. I'm 1.5 years into my entrepreneurial journey, and I almost gave up. I almost gave up. If it wasn't for the loving support of my wife and a really near and dear friend of mine who's my podcast partner now, I wouldn't have survived through this. I would have gone right back into the sales world. But I saw the missing link, and I kept doubling down on it. I kept doubling down on it. I kept doubling down on it. And the word kept coming back, and it was heart. That's what I brought to the sales world. That's what I believe is the missing link in sales. Now, if we can key in on something for a moment, I said words matter and message matters. And without a single client, but a message and what was in my head, I decided, you know what? I'm going to bring this message to the forefront. I'm going to talk about sincerity. I'm going to talk about substance. I'm going to talk about heart. I'm going to talk about the soft skills that I believe are sorely lacking. I love talking about the things. I'm as transparent gets. I'm a high relationship oriented guy. But I love bringing to the forefront and discussing things that many people think about, but yet very few are comfortable enough to talk about. Because I knew deep down in my heart that the more comfortable I made somebody feel with me, the more comfortable they would become. And in turn, they would start becoming comfortable sharing things about themselves and their businesses. Let's key in on that for a moment. The more comfortable that you can make somebody feel, the faster you can connect and relate, the faster, in my opinion, they will open up. This is what I saw the missing link was in sales. And I want us to stop and think about something for a moment. Some of us are business owners, entrepreneurs. We have different roles inside of our organization, but we live in this world today where we're digitally driven, we're socially connected, and we're mobily empowered. And if you can believe that the words you use and the messaging you use matters, then I want us to think about 3 things. And here are the 3 things that I want us to think about. How are you going to get noticed in a crowded marketplace? Let's stop and think about that for a moment. Respective into your marketplaces right now, how are you all going to get noticed? One of my favorite sayings is this: how do you get noticed in a marketplace where nobody knows you exist? And that might be a little bit harsh, but let's just think about it. How do you get noticed out there in a crowded marketplace today? And what makes you different? Here's the second part of this. What makes each and every one of you different? What is it in here that makes you different? I see this all the time, whether this be in solo entrepreneurs or whether this be in a sales situation, in business conversations. We may have heard this before. Can you share with me what makes you different? And right away, people go to what makes their company different. I'm going to ask each and every one of you that set aside the great company you work for with the great support, and let's double down on ourselves and what makes you different. So how are you going to get noticed in a crowded marketplace? What makes you different? And how are you going to connect and relate to your clients, to your prospects, and out in your marketplace? Let's stop and think about that for a moment. One of our signature moments as we brought the Selling from the Heart podcast to the forefront is one of the things, and it happens in the very first couple minutes of our podcast. We ask every single one of our guests this question, and I want us to really key in on this. What's it mean to you to sell from the heart? We ask every single guest that question. What's it mean to you to sell from the heart? Let's stop and think about that. Throughout today, throughout the rest of today, even into tomorrow, I'm going to ask you, what's it mean to you to sell from the heart? I've heard some amazing, amazing definitions. And by the way, Davin's been on the Selling from the Heart podcast. We had two guests that just about, I call them mic drops. And when you have dead silence on a podcast for like 2 seconds, it seems like an eternity. Two people, two separate podcasts said this, and I want to share it with you just so we can start thinking about this. One gentleman says this. He goes, it's hard to sell from your heart if your heart is broken. Let's think about that for a moment. It's hard to sell from your heart when your heart is broken. Wow. What are we doing? I'm a big believer that the inner work we do on our heart is the hardest thing we will ever do. However, the inner work that we do will fuel the best success out in the marketplace. We must work on our heart. I mentioned a little bit ago, it's heart set, mindset, and skill set. The second person on our podcast, when we asked, what's it mean to you to sell from the heart, said this. He goes, it depends on what's in your heart. Isn't that interesting? It's hard to sell from the heart if your heart's broken and what's in your heart. You heard me say a second ago that the inner heart work we do is the hardest work. It's the necessary work we do to fuel the outer success we have in our careers. And I'm going to ask us to stop and think about this. There's a couple questions for you. How are each and every one of you right now starting your morning? How are each and every one of you starting your morning? What's your vision? What's your purpose? I've heard a lot of discussion in the last day and a half here around purpose, around vision. But how are you starting your morning? I'm going to ask everyone, double down on your purpose. I'm a big believer that the executives out there, business owners out there, they're leaders cast vision. What's your vision? What are you doing that first hour? What are you doing the first hour of every morning? What are you doing to capture the morning? I'm a big believer that the first hour of what you do is the rudder, R-U-D-D-E-R. It's the rudder for your rest of your day. Think about it. What's your purpose? What's your vision? Double down on the inner work that you do to fuel the outer success. But we all run away from the inner work we do. One of my favorite sayings is this: the stories in our head become the stories of our lives. The stories in our head become the stories of our lives. So what comes into our mind will eventually play out into the world. What comes into our mind plays out in our lives. What do we do in the first hour of every morning to work on our heart? Why is all of this important? I'm a big believer we're all in sales. We're absolutely all in sales. Some live it, eat it, breathe it, and sleep it, but we're all in sales. Here's what I do know. And this was pre-pandemic. We live in this post-trust sales world. Think about it. I think post-trust may have been a word of the year a few years ago. But we live in this post-trust sales world where trust in sales is at an all-time low. Folks, it's at an all-time low. I could step over it. And I'm not talking just like a little time, a little step. I'm talking just barely. That concerns me. We just don't trust people that have sales associated with them. In fact, ask most people in sales to describe salespeople, and they'll give you all the negativities, all the words around what people use for salespeople. Sales is a noble profession. Without selling anything, we don't move money through the economy. There's a massive difference, and I write about it in Selling from the Heart. There's a massive difference between a sales professional and a sales rep. It starts in here. So if we can all agree we live in this post-trust sales world, we are soon pushing through a post-pandemic or a post-COVID world as well. How do you combine both of these together to overcome trust issues? Here's the second thing I want us to think about, and why I believe bringing your heart to the forefront matters, is this. They're skeptical. People are skeptical about everything that salespeople have to say. And rightfully so, because I believe the sales world's done it to themselves. So if it lacks trust, they're skeptical about everything. The last thing is they think everybody in sales is full of you know what. And you know the word that can be replaced with you know what. So how do you overcome these three things? I'm a big believer in this. It's authenticity. I'm not going to give you a PhD version of authenticity because, quite frankly, I don't have a PhD. I have a PhD from getting the you know what kicked out of me in Los Angeles, selling my whole entire life. But I do know this: authenticity is a lifestyle. It's not a light switch. We don't just wake up today, May 12th, 2021, say, you know what? You scratch your head, you have a cup of coffee and say, you know what? I think I'm going to try authenticity today. And if authenticity works, whoo, great, right on. I'm going to keep rolling with it. No, it's a lifestyle. It's not a light switch. We must bring sincerity to the forefront. We must bring substance to the forefront. And what I mean by substance, I'm talking business substance. We must bring our heart to the forefront. We must be passionate. We must deliver our message with clarity, with conviction. There's one thing that I do know. In times of uncertainty, like we've all been going through right now, the clearer you are with your words and the clearer you are with your message, it's going to resonate. I'm a big, huge believer. We internally all have a secret sauce. So I'm going to let the cat out of the bag on this one. My favorite hot sauce, and there's many of them out there, but my go-to sauce is Frank's Red Hot Sauce. You may be going, what? Larry, what is this? Frank's Red Hot Sauce? We all know the slogan. I'm not going to go into the slogan, but we all know the slogan behind Frank's Red Hot Sauce. And if you all don't know it, afterwards, go Google it and you will laugh. I'll give you the slogan, but I'm going to leave a word out because you just can't say it. It's, I put that on everything. Now, we all can imagine what that word is. Why am I sharing this with you? We all have a secret sauce. I knew what my secret sauce was a long time ago. It was heart. It was sincerity. It was high relationship oriented. It was out caring. Those were my secret sauces that I used to connect. That was my Frank's Red Hot Sauce. So what I'd like for us to think about, what's your secret sauce? Uncover your secret sauce. Double down on your secret sauce. And splash that on your relationships, because I want us to think about this. How do you all view relationships right now? How do you view relationships? Are they purpose-driven relationships? I do know this. If you fail to invest, you'll never be able to collect. How does this relate to relationships? I'm going to ask everyone, double down on relationships and double down on caring and compassion and how you connect and how you relate within these relationships. Because I do know this, the more you invest in your relationships, the more you'll be able to collect on your relationships. But if we never invest, you'll never be able to collect. What emotional things are you bringing and what are you depositing in the emotional bank account of your relationships? Let's stop and think about this for a moment. Now, here's 6 words that I want us to key in on. So if you want to write them down, go ahead, jot them on a piece of paper. If you're on a smartphone, you can put them in the notepad section of your smartphone. These are the first 3 words I want us to key in on. It's real, genuine, and authentic. Real, genuine, and authentic. What do those mean in the context of what we all have been going through for 14, 15, 16 months now? I believe those 3 words have completely taken on a whole different meaning. If I would ask you, what does real, genuine, and authentic mean pre-COVID, may have gotten a completely different response. But now what I'd like for us to think about is, what does that mean right now? Why am I sharing these first 3 words with you? I'm a big believer in the relationships that you have with your clients, with your prospects, out in the marketplace, with friends, with key influencers in your marketplace. They want somebody who's real, the real deal. Not a fake, not a facade. They want somebody who's real. They want somebody who's genuine. And yes, they want somebody who's authentic. And if y'all don't believe me, just go ask. Just go ask what people crave and they will tell you. Here's the last 3 words I want us to really key in on is this: caring, compassionate, and loving. Caring, compassionate, and loving. Bring those 6 words to your relationships, to your clients, out in your marketplace. If you want to connect at deeper levels, at heartfelt levels, with purpose, be genuine, be real, and be authentic. Bring caring and compassion and loving to the forefront. And I'm going to play on loving for a moment here. It's one word. All around love is this: if you don't love on your customers, if you don't love on your clients, if you don't love out in your community, somebody else will. Think about that for a moment. What's your purpose? Why are you doing what you're doing? What makes you all different? What makes you come alive? What makes you tick? Are you inviting people into conversations? Are you inviting people into heartfelt conversations? I'll let you all think about that. But I'm a I'm a quote geek. I'm an absolute inspirational quote geek. I geek out on quotes every single day. It's part of my morning routine. Besides, I'm an alliteration freak, so just bear with me. It just kicks something in my head when I said routine. I want us to think about this. What's your morning routine? Is it full of rhythm? Is it a ritual? And has it become a routine? And part of this is inspirational quotes. And this was, gosh, probably a couple of weeks ago. I'm watching a video and then I saw the inspirational quote afterwards. It's from Tony Robbins. I don't remember the whole quote, but I do remember the last 3 words of the quote. And I want us to key in on this. Tony Robbins went on to say this. He goes, "Success leaves clues." I'm going to play on this for a moment. Success leaves clues. Well, I'm here to tell you that people leave clues. People all around you are leaving clues. Are we listening to those clues? Now, those clues can be social messages. Those clues can become email messages. They become conversations. They become the text that you get. Why am I sharing all this with you? We live in a world where we're hiding behind text messages and emails. but yet people are leaving us clues. Are we keying into those clues to help open up conversations? Think about that for a moment. People leave clues. People leave clues to help open up conversations. Now, I'm a big believer in this. Are you tugging on somebody's heartstrings when you're having conversations at a sales level, at any kind of level? I believe that the way we connect is through conversations. Without conversations, it's hard to build relationships. And it's all around, I think the way that we build relationships is through experiences. Real quick, follow along with me on this. I'm going to use Disneyland just for a moment. This could be Disneyland, Disney World. This can be your favorite sporting event. But I'm a big believer in this. The way that relationships are built are based on experiences, memories, and experiences. Now, Disneyland, Disney World, and sports world out there, they do a great job of this. They capture memories and experiences. Here's what I'd like for us to think about. Are you capturing memories and experiences to build, strengthen, and grow your relationships? Think about that. I'm going to leave you a couple things. I'm going to end with a story. I'm going to give you 3 things that I believe that you can use right now to grow your business. Whether it's individual business, whether it's in your organization, it's 3 things. The first thing that it's based upon is gratitude. I want us to lead with gratitude. Be thankful. Be thankful for the relationships that you have, the customers, the clients that you have. Because it goes back to this. I want us to key in on gratitude, and I want us to key in on the success leaves clues or people leave clues. But I'm a big believer that if you really want to kickstart amazing conversations, listen. Now, I'm a sales geek at heart. Listening is the new prospecting. Listening is the new prospecting. We must listen with intent. We must be curious. We must listen to learn, not listen to respond really quick. So here are the 3 things that you can do immediately to grow your business after you lead with gratitude. I want each and every one of you right now to learn something new that you didn't know before about a customer or a client, depending on how you refer to them. Listening is the new prospecting. Find something new that you did not know before about a current customer or a client. And then what I'd like for you to do next is, once you've uncovered what that is, thank them for doing business. Pick up the phone, face to face, but never do this in an email. Learn something new about one of your customers, one of your clients. Pick up the phone and say, thank you for doing business with us. I appreciate the opportunity that you've given me to serve you this past year. And then tie in what you learned new about them and open up even more of a conversation and a deeper relationship. Share with them what you learned. Change the conversation, change the outcome in the relationship. And then the last thing that I'd ask you all to do is this. After you've shared something new with them and thanked them for doing business with you, look them in the eye. Or if it's on the phone, I want them to hear your voice and say this. Why did you initially choose to do business with me? What was it about me that you decided to do business with? Why am I sharing this with you? We must learn how to capture more memories and more experiences. Use those to fuel relationships and use those to dig in deeper, to even strengthen those relationships. Here's what I'm concerned with. If we don't, they're at the surface level. There's way too many surface level relationships going on. Learn something new, thank them. Take them back in time when they agreed to do business with you. And then ask them, Why did you initially do business with me? Capture that. We can all agree. If I asked everybody out there, do stories sell? You're all going to say, yes, yes, stories sell. Well, I'm here to tell you this: the best storytellers are story collectors. The best storytellers are story collectors. Are you collecting the stories of how you've helped and how you've touched the lives of your customers to repurpose those out in your marketplace to help you grow your business? I'm going to circle back and leave you with one thing in our time together: secret sauce. I'm a big believer we all have this secret sauce, and I'll end with a quick story. I'm a massive Steve Harvey, just a massive, massive Steve Harvey freak. I watch Family Feud every single day, so now you know how boring my life is after work. There's a reason why I watch Steve Harvey videos. I think he's highly inspirational, and the guy's got a phenomenal backstory. One day, I'm watching a YouTube video with Steve Harvey, and he talks about everyone's been given a gift at birth. Now, this is a 10-minute video. Steve Harvey's a highly religious, highly inspirational guy, besides being extremely funny. And he went on in that video to say, at birth, everyone's been given a gift. We need to uncover what that gift is. Now, early on, Steve Harvey uncovered what his gift was. His gift was, he's funny. He goes, you don't go to school to become funny. You either are funny or you're not funny. And I started to really think about it, and I watched the video, and I watched the video, and I watched the video. And each time I started to cry every time I watched the video. And after the third time watching the video about everyone's been given a gift, I finally dawned on me. My gift all along has been selling from the heart. That was my secret sauce all along in a crazy, chaotic world of sales. It's how I was able to connect and relate. I'd like all of us to think about, what's your secret sauce? What's that gift that you've been giving? Uncover what that gift is and sprinkle it on your relationships. Sprinkle it out in the marketplace. Grow your relationships. And I'll end with this, and I sincerely appreciate all of you. Davin, you're an amazing, amazing individual for putting on the Purpose Summit. Can't wait to personally meet you. I'm a big believer in this. People would rather do business and connect with a sales professional who sells from the heart, as opposed to a sales rep who is an empty suit. I sincerely thank each and every one of you. Have a blessed day and go make it happen. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.